Yo, the Big D ready to rumble this Tuesday night. I talk things Thanksgiving, college football, NFL, maybe figuring out what I'm eating, what I'm doing this Thanksgiving. And on the Driving and Top production, Spunky Spectrum's sports YouTube pages, the Big D 3300, that being my Twitch page, Dylan Schmetler Facebook, and this evening on my personal Twitter page at Dylan S Sports One. Yes, at Dylan S Sports One. That being the one with the blue check mark, by the way. Yes. So, it's 8 o'clock here in the stereo and talk all things Thanksgiving, college football, NFL. We're just getting the college football playoff rankings. So, looks like top won't have any change, but looks like, not USC, but Miami jumped over Utah, and it looks like Oregon jumped at least one spot, if not two. So potentially some movement coming in the top 12, but we'll see. It's a crazy year for college football. It's a crazy year for college football, and it's a crazy year for the NFL. And these Thanksgiving Day games are going to bring craziness, bring drama, and potentially bring a little intrigue. I looked at Green Bay, Detroit, Kansas City, Dallas, Cincinnati, Baltimore. So obviously, Green Bay, Detroit's the first game. People may or may not be getting their turkey or stuffing, mashed potatoes, gravy, or whatever condiments everybody likes. But I think this is by far not just the NFC North, but potentially playoff spots on the line, and a little revenge for what happened week 1, where the Packers beat up on the Lions 27-13 in a game that never even looked that close. To be honest with you, looking back at Sunday, I think Detroit was very lucky to beat the Giants. If the Giants had any defense, New York wins that game, because one day Robinson flat out torched the Lions. I mean, I think he's still running. And unfortunately, Jameis didn't make enough plays in the end. Maybe the Giants going for 4th down instead of kicking a field goal made it possible for Detroit to get back in the game. I think Jahmyr Gibbs racked up about 900 yards of total offense on Sunday. So Jahmyr Gibbs made everyone a lot of money. So we'll see what happens this time. I think he caught like 10 passes in week 1. So he might get 20 catch passes for all we know. And by the way, Jameson Williams got a bagel. Zero. So if anybody feels aggrieved about Jameson Williams, he better have more than one catch, and it better go for like 190 yards. But Detroit won 23-20 on Thanksgiving last year. I think the Lions have played on Thanksgiving every year since 1934. So Detroit is more common on Thanksgiving than everything except the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, but that's a story for itself. And I wonder how Detroit's going to be physically coming off an overtime game. Now a very short turnaround to play Thanksgiving afternoon. Meanwhile, Green Bay beat the Giants in week 11 and then beat the Vikings 23-6 in a game where Green Bay really didn't need much offensively, just J.J. McCarthy. He did nothing. I think he threw passes to the other team. Maybe he was seeing more than ghosts, and now he's hurt. So hopefully McCarthy returns. But You know, usually when we talk Green Bay, Matt LaFleur, Jordan Love, Josh Jacobs, we talk the Packer offense. This year, I think the Green Bay defense is better than the offense. I mean, with Micah Parsons on the other Packer pass rusher, DN Mission, Rashawn Gary, and both of them calls in half. Now, Green Bay's not necessarily great at stopping the run, particularly Parsons. But if Green Bay gets a lead with Gary and Parsons rushing the passer, forget about it. And Jeff Hafley may end up getting a head coaching job this off season. But Green Bay obviously dominated week one. And depending on injuries, I expect Josh Jacobs to play in what will be a huge game. Green Bay 7-3-1. The Bears are 8-3, and we'll talk about the Bears shortly. But this is a game with huge NFC North implications. I mean, Detroit's 7-4, and with the Lions playing the next two Thursdays, Detroit season could go really well or really bad. I mean, Detroit could be 10-4 or 7-7. So I think this game matters. And for Green Bay, can the Packers get back to throwing the ball? Obviously, no weather concerns in Detroit. Can Jordan Love get healthy? Maybe the Packers start to get some of their injured players back. I mean, Matthew Golden, Jane Reed could be activated off IR. Josh Jacobs, good possibility of him returning after missing Sunday's game. And I think this game could get. I think, everybody's thinking Detroit's going to win. Detroit's what, a 2.5-point favorite, which seems weird. But to me, Green Bay's a better team. Green Bay's got the better coach, the better quarterback, and the way better defense. I think Detroit might have the better running back, but I think Green Bay's got the better defense. And if the Lions are struggling to block Jared Goff, I think Goff's in trouble because he's not going to be able to escape the pocket with those two monsters coming in. Love's got the ability to escape the pocket now. Will Jordan Love be able to find the receiver and avoid a monumental mistake? That's another story. But I think everybody in Detroit is worried that this Detroit team is underwhelming. But part of it is Detroit lost two really good coordinators, and we're seeing what one of them's doing with Caleb Williams in Chicago this year. But more importantly, I don't see Dan Campbell as a great play caller. I see him more as a scheme guy, a motivator of men. But maybe the Lions have to go back and bite more kneecaps because it seems like Detroit misses both its ex-coordinators. And in this game, can Dan Campbell figure out a way of getting Amon-Ra, Jameson Williams? I think Sam Laporta being gone probably for the rest of the year is a huge loss. Because that takes away the threat over the middle of the field. Now, teams could concentrate on Williams, Amon-Ra, and Gibbs and force Jared Goff into throwing elsewhere. And, with this being the divisional game, both teams are so familiar with one another. Both coaching staffs know each other inside and out. But in the end, I like Green Bay. I think Green Bay's got a coaching edge, a quarterback edge, and I don't think the Packers are scared with playing the kitty cat Lions. The Packers love messing up Thanksgiving. And give me Green Bay and what could you would think be a high-scoring game. I think this game's probably in the 20s, maybe like 23-20, but I think Green Bay wins. Now, Kansas City and Dallas. Oof, this game's changed from a couple weeks ago, but, everyone laughed at Jerry Jones for trading Micah Parsons and trading for Quentin Williams and then getting George Pickens. I think all three of those moves have worked out. George Pickens has been the best receiver for the Cowboys this year. I think CeeDee Lamb's like one of the league leaders in drops this year. But frankly, this Cowboy team has been different. Dak Prescott is a really good quarterback. I don't know if Dak Prescott's a great quarterback, but this year, the weapons, offensive line coach, running game, the offensive line's not great, but Dak is putting together big years. I mean, last week, Dak made big throws, a couple big throws to Pickens, a big throw to Ferguson. And yeah, it didn't matter. Team down 21-0. Heck, even Dak ran for a touchdown. So, in many ways, what the Cowboys are doing is setting up for what could be a big 2026 draft. The Cowboys didn't pay Michael Paulson. Well, in all likelihood, unless Jerry Jones is stubborn, which he might, the Cowboys are going to end up paying George Pickens as well. He should. And I saw a stat today where George Pickens almost told George Pickens' total receiving yards stat line this year mirrors the whole Steelers offensive line, Steelers receiving core this year combined. How would Pittsburgh look with DK Metcalf and George Pickens? But that's a story for another day. And Cowboys beat the Raiders a week ago Monday, and then beat the Eagles on Sunday, coming back from down 21. Of course, Cowboys playing on Thanksgiving since the middle 60s, so nothing new from them. For the Chiefs, let's see, Mahomes and the Chiefs playing on Thanksgiving, playing on Christmas. So we all get whether you like it or not, the NFL is going to put Mahomes on and the Chiefs on holidays. And Kansas City got its own Week 12 come from behind win over the Colts. Pat Mahomes turning back into Pat Mahomes. Rashid Rice, Xavier Worthy, Kareem Hunt with over 100 yards and a big touchdown. And the Chiefs doing just enough to beat the Colts, 23-20 in overtime. One out Kansas City is going to be fiscally after that overtime game. But Kansas City finally won a close game this year. And frankly, if the Chiefs lose that game, I think Kansas City's done. The Colts could have buried the Chiefs in the AFC race. Now the Chiefs are alive and well, but this is another big game. Both these teams feel like they're teetering whether or not they're in playoff contention or not. Neither team can afford to lose, because Kansas City loses, they're 6-6 without the tiebreaker against the Jags, couple other teams, Bills, and the Cowboys go to 5-6-1. All that good work Dallas did in getting Quentin Williams, George Pickens, the win against the Raiders and the Eagles, goodbye. I think this seems, particularly with the quarterbacks and how well they're playing, I think, assuming everybody's healthy, and I think that will happen, I think this game potentially offers the most intriguing potential. I think the over-under, 52. So good possibility of points in this game. I think this game's got shootout written all over it. Who knows what happens? Depends, I'm intrigued what the Chiefs do on a short week. How many plays does Andy Reid have with 4 days? But I think it's a game, points to be scored. I don't have a lean one way or another, but we'll see. And then when everybody's done eating turkey, done unbuttoning their pants because they ate too much, Cincinnati, Baltimore. Even though the Bengals don't have a great record this year, this game's intriguing. One, It looks like Joe Burrow will be back from his toe injury, so we get to see one of the game's best. Two, Jamar Chase is back from his 1 week time of suspension, so Jamar Chase against the Ravens, sign me up. Three, I think Lamar Jackson's going to play, but how healthy is he going to be? I cannot figure out the Ravens because Baltimore this year should be better offensively with Lamar, but I don't think Lamar is close to 100%. He's been dealing with knee, ankle, toe injuries, and Lamar doesn't look right. And last week against the Jets, and Baltimore struggled just to get first downs in the first half. Yeah, ultimately the Ravens won because the Ravens are the Ravens, but Baltimore's not itself. Kyle Hamilton left Sunday's game, so who knows if he'll be ready to rumble shortly. And for the Bengals, yes, T. Higgins in concussion protocol. Yes, Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase might not have anything to play for, but that's as dangerous of a duo as anyone in the NFL. And the Bengals know their season is probably done. They've lost 4 in a row. And frankly, you think AFC North games are low-scoring defensive battles? Last year's games were 41-38, which I believe went to overtime, and 35-34, which the Bengals lost on a 2-point conversion. This game's got shootout potential also. So I think we get another AFC. I think we get a back and forth game with these two amazing quarterbacks. Hopefully these quarterbacks stay upright because I don't want to see Joe Flacco or Tyler Huntley play. I want to see Lamar and Joe Burrow finish the game in one piece. And then Black Friday, whether you like it or not, the NFL wants its cake, or in this case pie, while we're doing shopping. And the Bears-Eagles game is what will be the prime Black Friday game. Last year, I think the Chiefs played on Black Friday, won against the Raiders 19-17. Shocker, the Chiefs won a one-score game. But last week I think the Eagles showed the good, bad, and ugly of Philly. The good, Jalen Hurts and that Eagle. Jalen Hurts, good, bad, and ugly. First half, the Eagles could not do anything wrong. Stop Dak, force some mistakes. Jalen Hurts finds Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown. Second half, the Eagles do piddly poo. Saquon doesn't look right. Fumbles the ball. The Eagles fumble a punt. And Dak Prescott turns into the second coming of Troy Aikman, Tony Romo, Roger Staubach. And, frankly, I think there are more concerns with the Eagles, even though I think the Eagles are still very much a Super Bowl contender. But Philly, a little like Green Bay, is dependent on its defense. And I think the Eagles have to run the ball better. Saquon doesn't look right this year. I don't know if the if the workload caught up with Saquon, but Saquon does not look anything like he did last year. And frankly, the Eagles miss Lane Johnson. I think they missed him last week, and who knows, they missed him again this week. But I think this is a game that, if the Eagles should win. They're what, a 6-7 point favorite, depending on what site you use. But this is a game the Eagles win. More experienced team, short week. I think the Eagles get right. You would think the Eagles get right. Now, the Bears have been playing un-Bear-like games this year. The Bears have won the last 4 games by 14 points. That's not eventually the Bears are either going to start losing those games or have to beat the you-know-what out of somebody. Buddy, I mean, Bears beat the Steelers, but it was only 3 points. So, Caleb and the Bears have been doing great this year, running the ball. But, I mean, Chicago's defense not that great. The one thing Chicago does well on defense is take away the ball. I mean, I think the Bears are one of the league leaders in takeaways this year. So if the Bears don't win, generally the Eagles will give it away. But Jalen Hurts is not a turnover quarterback. The Eagles don't really turn over at all, especially at Lincoln Financial Field. But I look at the Bears, Caleb has played well, Rome, DJ Moore, Luther Burden, the running backs. Chicago's offensive line and Ben Johnson are the reason why Caleb Williams and the Bears are 8-3 and lead the NFC. Last year, Caleb Williams was sacked like 60-something times. This year, I think he's been sacked 11 times. And I saw a stat where like Joe Tooney not only kept Caleb clean this year, barely allowed any pressure. So how would Joe Tooney look in Kansas City? But that's why the Bears got Tooney. They got a guard, center, guard. Ben Johnson Ben Johnson and Caleb don't look perfect together, but those two look good enough. And I think there could be points, could be some weather in Philly this weekend, but I wouldn't leave all my turkey legs on Thanksgiving Day and stuff. I saved some room for Black Friday because there could be some points in that game. And speaking of Black Friday, this weekend, the rivalry weekend, college football is crazy. Crazy with all these amazing games. I mean, the Egg Bowl between Ole Miss and Mississippi State could be wilder than usual this year, which is saying something. If anybody's watched college football, there's all these rumors that Lane Kiffin could be the next head coach, whether it be at LSU, Florida, or somewhere in the NFL. I keep hearing rumors about Lane Kiffin maybe going to LSU. Well, LSU is probably the second or third best job in the sport, and we probably know we're 1 and 2 all. Columbus and Athens and Georgia. LSU's got a new president, a new AD, and a governor who has got himself in the middle of this mess. And LSU basically demands national championships. And in many ways, Ole Miss is I think 7 in the latest college football playoff ranking. So obviously, Ole Miss didn't play last week. But this game is more about whether or not Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss can get focused and get ready for this game. Ole Miss should win this game, even though there will be thousands of cowbells cheering for Hail State. I'm intrigued to see what the Rebels do on the road in a big time rivalry game. And for Lane, the problem college football faces, it's not Lane Kiffin's fault. It's not Ole Miss's fault. There's no leadership in college football. I just heard tonight that a coach whose team is still playing just accepted the same coaching job at Oklahoma State. College football needs a commissioner, whether it be Nick Saban, Urban Meyer, or somebody. Where these guys, there's a reason why NFL coordinators can't become head coaches if their teams are still in the playoffs. Because I remember, I don't know, 2009 when Brian Kelly left Cincinnati before the Bearcats played Florida in the Sugar Bowl, and BK became the coach of Notre Dame. That doesn't feel right. All these guys going in the transfer portal, that doesn't feel right before a playoff game or net. Teams should have to wait until the national championship game is over, and then what should happen is coaches can be able to go wherever they want and then have one recruiting day. We don't need 15 recruiting days where guys are like, hey, I'm going here on the. I understand guys want to get there early, and that's fine. But guess what? A guy may think here and like, oh wait, the coach who I thought was going to be my coach left or went to another team. Lane Kiffin decided I'm going to stay at Ole Miss. I'm going to go to Florida or LSU. College football needs that leader right now because the sport, the NIL transfer portal won't go away. But there needs to be something where coaches can stay in place until the season is over. If the rumor of Lane Kiffin leaving could and very well will affect Ole Miss's playoff season, depending on what the Rebels do on Friday afternoon in Saltville. And then the Georgia game. Georgia and Georgia Tech. Good old-fashioned, clean old-fashioned hate. Taking place at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium in the ATL. I'm not sure anything could top eight overtime an 8 overtime game like what happened last year. But if there's anything that could top it, it'd be this year. I mean, Georgia Tech, of course, coming off a home loss to a Pitt where Georgia Tech really didn't look great. King threw a bad pick six, an awful pick six for a 6-year quarterback. And meanwhile, Georgia's looked great, particularly since its last bye. I mean, Georgia just flat stumped Texas in the fourth quarter, beat up on Mississippi State, what everybody does. But, I don't know if Georgia's quite what it was 4 or 5 years ago, but this team's more than capable of not just going to the playoff, but ending in Miami. Gunnar Stockton's more than capable quarterback. And we know Kirby Smart is the best coach in college football right now. He'll have his guys ready. I mean, I know these teams don't like each other, but honestly, I don't see how Georgia Tech wins, particularly with this game being more of a neutral site game in Atlanta. I think Georgia tries to make a statement. I mean, obviously Georgia's not really playing for an SEC championship, but there's a good chance Georgia's ending up back at the ATL next week, depending on what happens. I mean, might be Alabama, might be Ole Miss, might be Georgia for all we know. Actually, I don't know if it can be Ole Miss because Ole Miss lost to Georgia. Yeah, if Ole Miss loses to Alabama, unless they lose the Iron Bowl, which is a game I'm going to talk to at the end. And then the nightcap on Black Friday. Texas. Texas A&M rivalry. The bad thing about all the changes in college football now is that rivalries come and go. The good thing with Texas and Texas A&M and Texas joining SC is that we get to see the Lone Star Showdown, and I think this game's going to be big. Texas A&M, Texas. Honestly, I know Texas A&M's what, number 3 in the rankings. I think Texas A&M's the most overrated team in the country. I'm sorry, Aggie fans, but I think Texas is going to beat Texas A&M by 3 touchdowns. I think Texas and Arch Manning, I understand Texas played a crappy Arkansas team, which that could give up 50 points to Michael Wallace, but I think Arch Manning's fine. This game's in Austin. A&M, for whatever reason, has played all the teams that have fired coaches this year. And now they go on the road to Austin, where if Texas somehow wins, is there a chance the Longhorns get in the playoffs? I mean, Texas has been tested this year. Playing Ohio State, playing Georgia, playing Oklahoma. This is probably the first time A&M will be tested the whole year. And I wonder what the Aggies do in the biggest game they play in forever. This is a game A&M needs. I mean, yeah, A&M will make the playoff. But if A&M wins this game, this could be the biggest win the school. This could be even sweeter than being Notre Dame, because I I think being Texas would be more impressive than Notre Dame. Notre Dame changed from that since that week 3 game. Even though Texas got 3 losses, I honestly think for Aggie fans, this game, being your biggest rival on its home turf, would be in Austin would be bigger, significantly bigger. I think this is I honestly like Texas big. I think Texas wins this game and shows what this team could have done. Now we get to Saturday. I hear there's this game called Ohio State Michigan. I don't know. I haven't heard of that game. Okay, I'm kidding. All my Ohio buddies would throw eggs at me, but you know, Ohio State Michigan. Enough said. But two teams that you know, Ohio State fans call them Team Up North, and Michigan fans call the Ohio State Bleep Eyes. And you know what that means. I'm not going to say it, but there's nothing bigger than the big game. And Ohio State, Michigan's won the last 4 of these games. Ohio State fans are probably sick of seeing, sick in how many days it's been since the Buckeyes beat the team up north. But I think this is a game that is all dependent by 2 factors. One, Ohio State's wide receiver health, and 2, the weather. Caldell Tate and Jeremiah Smith did not play in Ohio State's beatdown of Rutgers. Who knows if Ohio State just rested those guys or whether or not those guys are dealing with injuries. But assuming both of those guys are ready to rumble, I think Ohio State's the better team. Ohio State's done everything asked to do this year. Go on the road. Ohio State played Texas, beat them, got Seattle, Penn State. I think Ohio State be fine. And I don't think, unlike in years past, Ohio State will not take Michigan lightly. Ryan Day will have his troops ready. And whether or not Julian Sayin is a Heisman Trophy worthy quarterback, whether he's just the latest Ohio State quarterback throwing the 15 5-star receivers, I think Ohio State's defense is the best in college football. Matt Patricia has proven to be the best hire. Ohio State, if a team scores a touchdown on Ohio State, keep the football. That doesn't happen. It's like what Nick Saban's defense did, or what Alabama's defense did in 92. You get a touchdown, you keep the ball. But frankly, Underwood, the Michigan quarterback's got a lot of ability, but I don't know if Herman Moore is capable of winning another of these games. I don't know if he's quite as good of a head coach as Jim Harbaugh. That's just me. I think if Ohio State's got its wide receivers, I think the Buckeyes win comfortably. But the weather, I'm not worried about the weather. It could be snowing. I mean, it's not like Alabama and Auburn are playing in a blizzard. Oh, speaking of Alabama, Auburn, how about the Iron Bowl? There were two games this weekend where family members often separated. Ohio State, Michigan, Alabama, Auburn. There are some households where one spouse went to Alabama and the other spouse went to Auburn. And there might be fights in the tailgate line, there might be fights in the stands, heck, there might be fights on the field. There might not be a crazier game, there might not be a more insane game, there might not be a more what do you know what kind of game. But, there could be anything. Bo Jackson jumping over Alabama defenders in the 80s. A pick six in 92. Cam Newton leading a 24-point comeback against Alabama in his 2010 Heisman year. Kick six in 2013. The 4th and 30. I mean, expect the unexpected. I know Auburn's got an interim coach, so what? This game, throw out the records. If Auburn's 1-11, but that one wins against Alabama, I think Auburn fans would call it a successful season. But for Alabama, this is a game the Tide cannot lose one iota. Coming off that Oklahoma loss, if Alabama loses, the Tide could be out of the playoff again at 9-3. I know Alabama's played a difficult schedule this year. So you're playing, that Florida State loss. But, Georgia, Tennessee, Vanderbilt, South Carolina, LSU, Missouri. Oh, yeah. But we're going to see whether or not Ty Simpson can make it into the next level. On the road at Jordan-Hare, well, that stadium will be as electric as any he's seen. And practically for Auburn, this is the Tigers' season right now. Knock Alabama out of the play. If this game went in Alabama, who knows what would happen. Alabama should win at this game. But with this game at Jordan-Hare, expect the unexpected. I have no idea what this game goes. And by the way, there was some other rivalry. Florida State, Florida, but that rivalry was better 30 years ago. South Carolina, Clemson, but practically neither team's all that great this year. Louisville, Kentucky. Sneaky good one. Oregon, Washington. Oregon's beat USC last week, and Washington would love nothing more than knock Oregon out of the playoff. USC, UCLA, Iowa, Purdue, Northwestern, Illinois, Virginia Tech. By the way, the ACC is a wacky league this year, where Miami's probably the best team, but yet the Hurricanes could be left out of the play of the ACC championship if Virginia, Duke, and if two of Virginia, Duke, and SMU win this weekend. So instead of Atlantic Coastal Conference, it should be Atlantic Crazy Conference because the ACC is crazy. SMU and Cal are playing this weekend. At least Notre Dame and Stanford are playing, but those two sides have played each other for 100 years, for enough. So, rivalry weekend, Thanksgiving football. what else would you want this weekend? So thanks for tuning in to Live with the Big D. I'll be back at 9 with the Driving to Top crew. We'll talk more Thanksgiving football and maybe maybe I might have a rant over why my team turns it over 4 times and somehow beats the Arizona Cardinals. Thankfully. This is Dylan. Sign off for now.